In his first budgetary approval, President William Ruto has assented to the Supplementary Appropriation Bill. The bill was considered and passed by the National Assembly on 1st March 2023, with amendments focused on drought mitigation and alleviating pending bills to ensure smooth service delivery. Noah Kipkimboy with the details.
In the first supplementary budget under the bottom-up economic transformation agenda, the government is keen to reduce pending bills, allocating 60 billion shillings to clear arrears, which currently stand at 480.8 billion shillings. The bill further seeks to smoothen the transition to junior high, which has been marred by hiccups and constraints. The bill gives authority for the issuance of 200.7 billion shillings out of the consolidated fund and apply it towards the supply granted for the service of the year ending this June, including provision for capitation for students entering junior secondary school. The recruitment of additional teachers will absorb 6 billion shillings, while the school feeding program under the National Council for Nomadic Education will absorb 2 billion shillings. With the country facing failed rain seasons and food insecurity, 10 billion shillings has been allocated towards drought mitigation and 15 billion shillings to the fertilizer subsidy. With limited funds, the government has had to cut back on development, redirecting 97.1 billion shillings towards drought relief. Overall, the recurrent budget was increased by an additional 94.8 billion shillings. Nokip Kimboy, KTN News.
Moving on, the government could actually, or rather, let me take that again, just taking a look at the latest in terms of the debt ceiling. The government could be forced to cut back on its development and expenditure plans should Parliament fail to review the current debt ceiling. According to Treasury Principal Secretary Dr. Chris Kipto, Treasury has proposed to anchor the debt ceiling at 55% of the GDP as opposed to a nominal figure. The debt ceiling is currently at 10 trillion shillings, a factor that could make it difficult for the government to borrow, with the country's debt having crossed the 9 trillion shilling mark in December last year. Jimmy Mbogo reports.
Member of Parliament, Baringo North.
The government has no more headroom for borrowing. This is a statement that is giving Treasury officials sleepless nights as they seek ways around it following the capping of Kenya's debt at 10 trillion shillings in mid-2020. In their latest move, Treasury officials are seeking to tinker with the debt ceiling by moving away from the nominal cap of 10 trillion shillings to a ratio of GDP of 55%, which they say will give them flexibility from constantly seeking parliamentary approval.
The government has a budget, wants to implement, and comes to Parliament to request to adjust. As National Treasury, not come back again to Parliament to say adjust and then come back again adjust. We felt that maybe that we need some flexibility.
According to Treasury officials who appeared before the Parliamentary Public Debt and Privatization Committee, the government may be forced to cut back on some projects if Parliament does not approve their request to borrow beyond the current limit of 10 trillion shillings.
But we can't be unrealistic and say we can stop borrowing. We can do 587 this year if you don't adjust. We cannot do 720, which is in our fiscal framework. The AG is submitting the bill to Parliament to change from nominal anchor to debt, to the GDP anchor.
The committee, however, remains skeptical about approving their request and questions its overall effect, considering the Treasury is in charge of GDP calculations.
The worry that is worrying Kenyans is that Treasury will be the sole people doing the calculations for the GDP versus the debt ratio, and then comes to justify to say, now we can move on borrowing because we have the current capacity.
Even if we were to grant you that, already you are above what is expected. So, are you able to tell us how much you'll be borrowing? Because granting you your wish does not solve your problem.
Kipto has also hinted at the cancellation of loan facilities that the country has been paying commitment fee but has not yet received, saying it could save the country up to 660 million shillings.
In fact, if there are loans which we have not made use, we cancel. Why not? We should cancel or re-engage the partners and see whether the money can be used for other purposes. There are many idle projects which we need to look at their state.
With debt repayments now on the horizon, Treasury could be forced to find alternative ways to finance government expenditure if Parliament does not grant their wish, which could spell doom for Kenyans who might be forced to pay more in taxes. Jimmy Mbogo, KTN News.